Do you know that after watching this video about overtime and overtime pay, you might be very disappointed instead? Watch on because you will also realize that the 44-hour work week is not entirely true for you. So, before anything, you need to know something known as Part 4 of the Employment Act. You see, you might be thinking that you are entitled to OT pay simply because you work OT. And you might think it's against the law if your boss doesn't pay you OT. Well, I'm afraid to be the bearer of bad news. It might not be so. You see, while employees are protected by the Employment Act, which is a comprehensive law to ensure that employees will not be abused by evil bosses, the part about OT is specifically just in Part 4 of the Employment Act. And here's the thing, take a look at the first section of Part 4 of the Employment Act and you will see this. Yes, anything pertaining to laws regarding overtime are only valid for these two groups of employees. The first group are labor workers who do not earn over $4,500 a month. And the second group is kind of a low-entry worker, whether office or not, who earns less than $2,600 a month. You know, like clerks or receptionists lah. You can see that it's specifically just for a select group of people. If you are not part of this group, you are not covered under this. MOM actually has a useful website for you to check if you are part of this group. You can check out the link in my description. Also, the description has my Instagram link, so please follow me there. I want to be influencer also, I can get free for it. DM me. Here's the thing, as mentioned, overtime and overtime pay are only covered under this part of the Employment Act. Therefore, only this select group of people are entitled to OT pay by law. And to avoid confusion, I will call this group of people GP4 lah. So, what is considered overtime? If you are in GP4, then according to the law, your working hours should not be over 44 hours a week. Therefore, if
Wait, that means if for people like me who is an executive earning over 2.6k a month, the maximum hours per week can be higher than 44 hours?
Well, yes, because the 44 hours a week thingy is also under Part 4 of the Employment Act.
Yesterday I told my boss he's breaking the law by asking me to work over 44 hours.
Yeah, this is a misconception that many of us might have. You see, unless you are in GP4, there is no limit to the number of hours you work. But of course, if your boss asks you to work 170 hours a week, then quit immediately lah. Cause your boss fail his maths and may even calculate your pay wrongly. If you are in GP4, then you have a maximum working hours based on the Employment Act, which is 44 hours per week. Anything beyond that is considered overtime. Of course, it can be lower than 44 hours, depending on the employment contract. Basically, overtime hours are any hours that are beyond what is stated in your employment letter, whereby the maximum is 44 hours. Now, with this, you can now understand how overtime pay works. If you are looking to advertise your business in this channel, we can help you. There are guaranteed views and many big brands have trusted us. Just click on the link in the description. Once again, to avoid confusion, let me reiterate again. This is only for GP4. Basically, the statutory minimum overtime pay is 1.5 times the employee's hourly basic rate of pay. Remember, this is the minimum. Your company can pay higher, but never lower. And here's something interesting too. There is a cap on overtime hours too. There's a hard cap of 72 hours of overtime per month. This means, in addition to normal working hours, an employee can work at most 72 extra hours of OT in any month. And this isn't just a recommendation, it's a law, as is in Section 38, Subsection 5 in Part 4 of the Employment Act. So the sky is not the limit when it comes to overtime pay lah. Okay, I know many of you who watch this are disappointed cause this overtime pay thingy might not apply to you, as you might not be in GP4. In fact, I think you are sad because you just realized that you cannot say,
"Hey boss, you're breaking the law when you ask me to work over 44 hours a week."
But don't worry, there's something called market forces. If an employer has poor HR policies or treats staff badly, people will eventually leave. To stay competitive and attract workers, the employer will have to either improve conditions or struggle to fire and retain staff lah. This means companies are often encouraged to kind of follow Part 4 of the Employment Act, like the common practice of giving off in lieu for people who work overtime or following the 44-hour workweek schedule, among other things. So it's up to the company to stay competitive or to stay kiam siap. In the meantime, if you want to know why your NRIC is not your NRIC number, watch this. And thank you for spending almost 4 minutes with me. I really appreciate it and hope you learned something.